Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is me still in Hawaii, which will last another 2 weeks, and then I will be back in Maryland. And my daughter just sent me this. She goes, "It was 85 degrees yesterday, but today it snowed. What the heck? How does that even happen? I mean, that's just bizarre." So I probably will be returning to relatively warm weather, but the scenery is not going to look like this. I mean, this is one of my favorite places. This is Magic Lagoon, where I can walk to from where I'm living, and just it's nice to just swim in and lay around in. It has no waves, and you have Diamond Head in the background here, and you can see some of Honolulu here. That's probably Waikiki right there, but I live over here, which is not in Waikiki, thank God, because I can't stand all those tourists. They drive me nuts. So anyway, yeah. So, okay, I will not be discussing, I just won't. It's one of those things, I leave that to other people to get really invested in, because I'm not. I mean, she is what she is. I'm not that interested in discussing it. But also welcome Cheryl, who is now here, and I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Orally. I came late too, so that's okay. I'm running late because I had one of those catastrophes. When you're working, I put all the shows I'm going to be doing on one page. Not one page, but if you're on iPad, you can set up an area where you save all your things for one show. And I clicked on something, and every single thing I had vanished. So then I had to go back into my history and try to find everything from the history. So what a mess. That's all I can say. What a mess. So that's the morning I'm starting with here. And it's also raining like crazy here, so it doesn't look like this today. There's a huge storm that came in last night, and it rained like you wouldn't believe, with winds, and it's supposed to go on all week long. So hopefully it'll end, and I'll have one last nice week in Hawaii. So, well, you're a walking catastrophe. Okay, well then I'll feel better. Okay, let me start the show by talking about somebody I think is a walking catastrophe. This is, let me find it here. As I say, everything's out of order, but all right. Oh, Lord God Almighty. Ashleigh Banfield, who told us just a little while ago that she had a tip from inside that said her son-in-law killed her, that he's the one behind everything. So, and she had nothing to prove it, and it was absolutely an atrocious thing to say, and I'm surprised she isn't being sued over that. Saying that the police would be looking at him as they would look at everybody, absolutely. So anyway, I'm not a huge fan of Ashleigh Banfield. I did a lot of shows with her during my television career, but I think what kind of let's put it this way: she's a host of she was a host, and people don't understand. A lot of hosts aren't necessarily highly analytical. They're given a lot of the things they have to say. They run a show. There's better hosts and worse hosts. That's all I can say. I've had some hosts that were quite, you're like, wow, you're asking really great questions, and you're making me a really great interviewee, because if you get a bad host, you look like a moron because they ask all the wrong questions. You sit there going, huh? So I've always thanked a host who asked me great questions, because that gave me something to work with. I don't really remember all my times with Ashleigh Banfield. I'm not going to say they were bad. I just don't really remember, because I was on so many times, over 3,000 times on television. But she did do a review of my book. I think I'm correct about this. And of course, Brock can't find it now. She did a review of my book, The Murder of Cleopatra, and I don't know why she did it. It was a very short review. Basically, she ruined a good myth. That was the review. I'm like, what? And she didn't have me on the show, and that's what ticked me off, because I'm like, if I come on your show and you're going to do a review of my book, shouldn't you invite me to talk about the book instead of just stabbing me in the back? So that's my memory. Now, Grok can't find any evidence of that show. I can't either, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. But at any rate, so anyway, she's this new thing she came out with after she basically said, I know for sure because I have inside information that the son-in-law is responsible for what happened to Nancy Guthrie. Well, I think it's been a boring week because it has been very quiet, except for that scumbag, well, I won't say who he is, that scumbag YouTuber who is still there. Everybody's gone home, but not him. And he points at things going, look, there is some dirt over there. Look, this is the kind of, when you have to make up stuff and become excited over things that are not exciting, that you just, you're being disingenuous. All you're doing is trying to get people to come to your channel and click on it. And you're trying to make something out of nothing. Well, here's what I think she's doing too. So somebody had asked me, oh, what about the Nancy Woodrum case? It is solved, but I'm guessing the person who asked me to look at this had seen this thing from Ashleigh Banfield. And Ashleigh left, I guess, News Nation. She has left a lot of places. I think maybe she left with their like back hand on her back, giving her a little push. But anyway, she supposedly left in 2026, and it's to start her to be focused on her own podcast, and she's already got over 500,000 subscribers, which is painful for me. But anyway, and I say I don't knock people who do well for the most part. If they do well because they really have something to offer, I'm like, bully for you. You're good. You're good, and you're getting people, and you're beating the algorithm these days, and that's fantastic. But then we have people like Ashleigh Banfield. Sorry, Ashleigh. This whole thing was ridiculous. Disturbing similarities to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, the Nancy Woodrum case. Before Nancy Guthrie, there was Nancy Woodrum. These two cases have zero to do with each other. Zero. And she's finding things. Oh my God, you can't believe the similarities. You know what the similarities are? They're both women. They both got, well, one's been murdered, one we don't really know. Oh no, guess what? They both lived in a house. Yeah, they both lived in a house. Now, Nancy Woodrum's only 62 years old. Although Ashleigh Banfield talks about how she's a geriatric. And the man who killed her, which I'll get into, committed geriatric rape. I'm 60 now, geriatric? I mean, seriously? I mean, really? I mean, there's a great difference between 60 and 20 years older. There is. Although even I know people in their 80s who are just perfectly healthy and fine and moving around pretty good. They're not all that geriatric. And I find that kind of insulting, Ashleigh, because according to you, I'm highly geriatric. And I guess if I get murdered, there'll be great similarities between now the three of us, our cases, even though I'm in Hawaii. So, hey, well, I mean, just because Nancy Guthrie was murdered she wasn't murdered, right? She was taken and abducted, because that's murdered is what you want people to believe. She was murdered by some people she knew, and the whole abduction thing is fake. That was in Arizona. But Nancy, the other Nancy, was in California, and it was 8 years ago. The similarities are so amazing. They're states that are near each other. They're only 8 years apart. They both live in houses. Oh, and I think Nancy Woodrum, let me get this straight. Let me show you a picture of this geriatric woman. Yeah, she looks geriatric as hell. 62. She looks pretty fine to me. Anyway, she was murdered by this guy, Carlo Alberto Fuentes. Now, and the other thing she says, she gets very excited. She's always excited. Shocking that it turned out to be this guy. Oh my God. Hold on. Let me take a. Oh my God. It's that guy. What? How was it shocking? Well, he did work on her house. In other words, he's a handyman. I hate to tell you this, Ashley, but handymen are one of the higher occupations for serial killers. Security guard, handyman. So the reason handymen end up in that higher category for being serial killers is that they may have trouble getting work because of their sketchy backgrounds, and they can put up a little sign someplace, or at the grocery store, or whatever. They can go by word of mouth, and they can get a job without people checking out their credentials and their background, their criminal history, and all that nonsense. So handyman can be very creepy people. They can also be very nice people. And I say that because my daughter's father-in-law does do that work as well. So I always say I'm not attacking the entire profession. Security guards. My son has been a security guard. Bouncers. They're sketchy. My other son was a bouncer. So I am not knocking the entire profession. But I did hire a handyman to do my gutters. He just got out of the federal penitentiary for murder. Sure enough. So, that was way back in time, in my old house that I used to live in. And people always go, well, you didn't hire him, did you? Well, yeah, because he was way cheaper than anybody else. So I did, in spite of the fact I knew he was a murderer, and he knew I was a criminal profiler. So, yeah, that was interesting. But that's another story for another time. But handymen have been known to kill off the people that they're working for. Rape and murder is not that. Oh, I know. It's not shocking. It's not surprising. So in other words, she's saying that because the police talked to him originally and he pointed I know this guy was over there talking to them, having an argument behind the house. And then it turned out he was helpful to the police. And then it turned out to be him. Oh my God, it's shocking. No, it's not shocking. I'm sure the police had their eye on him, didn't have proof. But eventually it turned out that he, the handyman, did indeed rape and murder this Nancy in her bed. Oh my God, that's a similarity. So the bed, there's beds in these houses. God knows. And then he removed her body, probably because he worked on her property and probably because he left semen. So he took the body and took it away. And eventually he confessed, and that's the end of it. What the hell does that have to do with Nancy Guthrie, except for you want to get clicks on your channel? I find that appalling. I just, that kind of stuff, because it's a slow news week and the son-in-law hasn't been arrested, you're gonna go, okay, this one's just like Nancy Guthrie. No, it isn't. You're not a criminal profiler. You're not a detective. Clearly, you don't have good logic. Just annoys the hell out of it. But anyway, let me check your comments. Oh, I noticed that Nancy G is always referred to as, quote, old and frail and a mother and a grandmother, as if she has no life of her own and not capable of living on her own. That's a good point. I mean, yes, there are many people in life who have physical disabilities, conditions, and they're only 30 or 40, and they're not considered old and frail. Yes, there is a real ageism thing that goes on in this country, and it drives me nuts. I mean, we all accept that with age there are issues that can come along with it. Obviously, the higher rate of Alzheimer's, dementia show up. The body does break down. These things are true, but it doesn't mean you cannot function. It doesn't mean you can't live on your own. It doesn't mean you need to be put in a home someplace. She apparently, Nancy Guthrie apparently seemed to be doing perfectly fine at her home. Yes, she had heart problems, but other than that, she was managing her home. And yeah, they don't need to give her those kind of adjectives. They don't. And I guess the claim is, the concept is, well, then she couldn't fight back very well. There are some women of that age who have beaten the crap out of people who've attacked them. My mother-in-law, I mean, she kept a weight underneath her pillow, and she was from Jamaica. She had arms like you wouldn't believe. She had so much strength in her arms. She would have beat the crap out of anybody who tried to attack her. So yeah, I mean, but these are words people like to throw around. Well, that's interesting. That's why I bought a quote handyman contract from a well-established construction company. Interesting. I don't know that they do any background checks either, though. Just to let you know, background checks are very difficult to do, especially if you're in places where you have to go to each state to get the information. So there's like Maryland, everything's the criminal. You can look up a case in Maryland. It's fantastic. Put somebody's name in, check them out. There runs their whole history. It's great. DC can't do it. Virginia, I don't think Virginia is quite. They're sort of online, but you got to check each county separately. It's a real pain in the ass. A lot of times they just don't bother. So I would say, I don't know that I trust that anymore than picking. Maybe a little better than picking a guy off the street, but not necessarily being a way to protect yourself. Yeah, exactly. Oh, they're both called Nancy. Crime linkage analysis. It says ridiculous. Oh my God. That's a good question. Pat, did you start your channel just after you left TV? No, I never even thought of doing this. When did I leave TV? I left TV. Wow, I'm trying to remember now. I can tell you the circumstances surrounding it. There were a bunch of reasons that I left TV. One was I refused to talk about mass murderers anymore because I felt the talking about that was encouraging more mass murderers to get attention, so they would do it. That kind of killed like 30% of my income right there. Then I got to the point where I was frustrated over how TV worked, that they had these panels, and they bring you on a panel and then everybody just attacks each other, or they bring you on as the punching bag because they like bring three people on who think this way and just you this way, and then have three people attack you, and they would lie to you before you go on the show as to, oh yeah, we can't wait to hear. No, they're just setting you up. And I found that very disrespectful. If you're going to bring a professional on a show, you ought to let them speak. And also, there's too many tiny sound bites. You couldn't even get your information across that you were trying to say. So it became worse and worse over the years, and I disliked where it was going. I also stopped doing a lot of documentary work because the documentary work would edit me and then basically libel me, put stuff up that I never said, and they changed things around. They put a question before my answer, but the question that was before my answer on the show was not the question they actually asked. They replaced the question with a different question, so I look like a moron. So there are all these agendas going on. It became very, very frustrating. And my parents, by the way, at that time, also my mother had just been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. My parents were in their 90s. And I'm like, I just can't keep doing. First of all, TV is not really worth doing. And I'd rather be spending time with my parents in their last years and helping them. So I quit TV somewhere around, gosh, I don't even remember the last time I did major television shows. At least 12, 14 years ago. And then I pretty much did occasional documentaries that were documentaries where I knew they weren't screwing me over. Like if they asked me to talk about serial killers, they brought me on as a professional. It didn't bring me on a specific case to have people fight over whether the person's guilty or not guilty. And then during COVID, when COVID started, somebody said to me, Pat, why don't you start a YouTube channel? And I never considered doing it. But because first of all, almost it's impossible to earn any money on YouTube. And 99.75% of people on YouTube make zero money. And the other 0.25% make very little money. And then what you're seeing, you always see these people who have big channels, and you think that's the way most of it works. It doesn't. Very hard to get monetized, very hard to get subscribers, and very hard to earn a living. But it was COVID, and I was stuck at home and bored out of my mind. So I started it during COVID. It took a year and a half for me to earn. It took me 4 months to get monetized, but it took me a year and a half before I saw money that, like, I'm working full time doing the show and getting paid $5 an hour. It's not cool. And so eventually I made minimum wage. And so that's when I started it. And it's been 5 years now. And everything was going really good. About 4 years in, I was like, okay, this is a sustainable channel. I'm making enough money to, not great money, but at least minimum wage, at least something to cover my time and effort. And now the rise of AI has completely crushed YouTubers, and I'm down 50% income. And normally I was getting like about between 1,000 and 2,000 subscribers per month. This last month, I lost 100. I'm getting no new subscribers because the algorithm is not showing my videos to new people, because they're showing AI to new people. So it's a crazy world out there, and AI is going to be an interesting to see what AI does to all of us in the future. Will I continue doing the show? I hope so. I want to continue, and I want to start my new channel for the detectives, the School for Detectives. I hope that will happen. But my other channel, Dear Profiler Pat, I'm going to bring that. I've worked on that for a year. I earn $2 a video. And after a year, it's getting nowhere. So I'm moving it back to this channel. So I will do Dear Profiler Pat, but I'll just bring it back to this channel, because at least I have 80,000 subscribers at the moment, although I lost 93 this month and didn't get any new subscribers. So, Ashleigh Banfield, well, she's Ashleigh Banfield, and the algorithm likes people who come from News Nation. Oh, it is absolutely outrageous these days. I was going to talk about one AI one. Where is it? I'll see if I can find it. Everything's out of order here. So, but I will talk about this one AI one. That where the hell is it? Oh, where do it? Hold on. Oh, swear to God, I had it here, and now I can't find it. Okay, if I find it, I'll put it up. Yeah, AI is absolutely out of control. And it's not like AI can be used for understanding stuff. It's kind of interesting that if you go on X these days and you see something, you're like, is that true or isn't it? You actually go to AI to ask them if it's AI. I go to Grok all the time, or watch people say, Grok, is this true? Because you can't tell if it's true or not half the time. You got to find out if it's true. But you got to go to AI to find out if it's AI. So the whole thing is Looney Tunes. And I don't know what that's going to mean for all of us in the future. Now, okay, let me go on to something. I want to mention this case just for a second here. Oh, good Lord. So this is a guy saying it's getting more bizarre by the day. No, it's not. This is the Noah Donohoe case out of Ireland. And it's now the 7th day of the Noah Donohoe inquest, which I said was a waste of time. And I got attacked for that. I have a video out on that. It's now 7 weeks in, and the medical examiner came in and said, well, he died by drowning. There's no evidence of any foul play. No. And of course, the medical examiner is getting attacked on the internet, of course. And it's already 7 weeks. So they have this inquest, and they actually have a jury for this inquest. And I believe that's all that's going to happen after they finally end up with this thing, is they're going to say, well, we could have done a better job here and there. That's it. I mean, you can point fingers at whether the police did the perfect job or whether the CCTV should have, there wasn't in the right place, or that somebody should have locked something down. You can go up on all this crap. Everybody, you can point fingers everywhere. But you can point fingers back at the mom, too. She said her son was showing some problems, some issues. Why? I mean, you're a single mom. You had him with a father who never saw him, never was in his life. Maybe you did your best, but people could point fingers at you, too, And so the thing is, he was having mental problems, emotional problems. You knew that. You even told the police that. And he was seen looking like he was in a state of psychosis. And he ends up in a small, dark place with water, which is not unusual for people who go crawling into places in psychosis. And to me, the answer is already there. It was horribly sad. I feel badly for his mother. I mean, that was her only child. She obviously adored him. But just what good does it do pointing fingers at this point? But there's this whole find out the truth. He was really murdered bullcrap going on. And there's no evidence he was murdered. There was never anything pointing to it that he was murdered. But this will go through. I don't know how many more weeks this crap is going to last. 8, 9 weeks. Jury out for 2 months. All this money spent that could be spent on missing children. All to do what? Point fingers that human beings aren't perfect at every moment of the day. And then, of course, who knows? The lawsuits will probably start. Yeah, it's just, it drives me crazy, this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, that is, it's an inquest. Yeah. So, do you have an inquest? Not that I know of. No, we have grand juries to determine whether a case should go forward. But I might be an idiot about this. I probably have to look that up on Grok. Do we have inquests in the U.S.? So, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not part of law. My whole thing has always been about analysis of crime, and not yes. I'm going to ask Grok, so I can screw myself with AI. Do we have inquests in the United States? Let's see. Grok says the United States does have inquests, but they differ significantly from the more formalized, mandatory, and jury-based inquests common in places like the UK, Australia, or Canada. An inquest in the U.S. is usually called a coroner's inquest. It's a fact-finding investigation typically conducted by a coroner or a medical examiner into the case, the manner and circumstances of death when it is sudden, unnatural, violent, suspicious, or unexplained. These are not trials. They're inquiries to establish facts like identity of the deceased, cause of death, and sometimes who might bear criminal liability. Yeah. Almost never see that. So, yeah, there you go. Thank you, Grok. But it is big elsewhere. And what we do here is instead of inquest, we do appeal after appeal after appeal after appeal after appeal. And we find ways to then get the, or the trials fail and we go to trial number 2, trial number 3, trial number 4. Oh, and somebody said where they were talking about, I talked about, I'm not fond of jury trials. And they, and the question was, I want to point this out because it was asked to me this way. Hold on a second, let me find it. Hold on. Okay, hold on a second. I'm trying to find the actual email, which said, where is it? No, I'm not going to find it. But the email was basically saying how, I can't believe I can't find it. Hold on a second. Okay. The statement was, knowing your contempt for jurors, throw people off a bus stop is what I often say. I thought you'd be amused by this story, which I am amused. I'm going to tell you about this story. It was great. And then I wrote back, I said, I don't have contempt for jurors. I have contempt for the civilian jury system, because to me, I don't blame people who are part of something if the something that they're part of has not been well put together. If there hasn't been good training or oversight. Like, for example, police detectives. I think a lot of times police detectives aren't that good at analyzing cases. I don't have contempt for them. I have great love for the police detectives, considering my own daughter is one, for the efforts they put out to solve cases, to care about the victim. I have great respect for them. But what is unfortunate is that almost all detectives in the United States do not get any training to speak of. They go from being a street patrol officer to being a detective. Now, they may have been an officer, they may be a very great police officer for 10 years, but what makes them a good detective? Well, sometimes people think, well, that person would be a good detective. Sometimes they just hang out at the same bar. But what should make them a good detective is they should be picked because they have very good logic, and then they should be sent to detective school for, I don't know, whatever amount of time where they would learn criminal profiling, crime scene analysis, and all these kinds of things. They are not sent to detective school. They just start the job the next day. They learn on the job. That is, to me, is not sufficient. They should go to detective school. Jurors should go to jury school. In other words, professional jurors. They should go to a school where they learn the same things that the detectives would learn, the same things a profiler would learn. And they should be of the sort that have good logic sense, so that when they do analyze things, most of the time they're pretty reasonable about it. You're never going to get perfect. That's why I hate all this finger pointing about perfections. Well, nobody's perfect. I'm not going to be always right. There's no way. I mean, so no jury is always going to be always right, and every juror is always going to be always right, even if they're professionals. That's true. But we should raise the standards at least to something reasonable, not outrageous, because sometimes what you can do is you can raise the standard so high that you, like, if you had every juror had to have a law degree and have a PhD, you wouldn't have any jurors because nobody's going to do all that work to become a juror, But you could give them a reasonable jury school, and you could have them then. That would be their job, is to analyze different cases as a jury. But yeah, 12 people at a bus stop to me is ludicrous because they have zero training. And I wouldn't want to pick 12 people off a bus stop to decide whether I should get brain surgery or not either. I would want to get 12 brain surgeons to look into it, or at least a panel of citizens who had studied enough medical stuff to have and understand how brain surgeons work to give a reasonable response, a reasonable opinion. So no, I've never been contempt. I do not have contempt for juries. I have contempt for the jury system because I think it fails. I also don't have contempt for profilers, but I have contempt for the FBI profiling methodology because I've never seen it to be useful. I've never seen it to prove to work. And they make sure there is no oversight. They just say we're good. We're the only ones who can do profiling, and we do great profiling. I don't see any evidence of it. If you're going to say this works, then you ought to have some proof that it works. Last week I talked about geographical profiling. I think some of that's very interesting. I think there's some basic geographical profiling, behavioral profiling that is very interesting when it comes to trying to figure out where the guy might be operating out of. But I've never seen any proof that geographical profiling by computer actually has any actual value. I just don't see it. So prove it to me, geographical profilers. I know you mean well and all that. Some of you great people, prove it to me. Give me proof that your geographical profiling actually made a huge difference in a case. Not that, it was one of the tools. Okay, one of the tools, in what way? It existed? I don't understand how it works. You got a bunch of crimes in an area. You don't even know, if they're the same killer. You don't know if the killer's moved. So how are you going to pinpoint where he lives if the killer could have moved around over those years? I don't even understand the concept behind a lot of geographical profiling that's computerized. I understand it by behavioral stuff, where you look at it and go, most serial killers operate close to their homes, close to their work, where they're comfortable. Those things make sense. But I don't understand the computerized version of it, and I haven't seen any proof that it works. So prove it. Prove it to me. Do a whole study. Does FBI criminal profiling work? Does FBI profiling of myself, does it work? Do juries actually, is there any sense in any of that. So if we're not willing to look at it so we can improve it, it's because we don't want to look at it, because we just, whoever is in control of things wants it to stay the way it is. So that was a comment on that. Yeah, Criminal Minds, worst show on profiling ever. Just absolutely awful. This is very true. I agree with this. It is useful in the sense that the first case might have occurred near their home and you move further around with time. Yes, that is very true. So when you look at cases, if you want to look at who in the area could have committed this crime, yes, that's true. So when you're a detective, you're looking at investigative avenues. That makes sense to do that. So at least that, yeah. And people keep thinking professional juries are all going to be bribed and all kinds of crap, and that's just nonsense. I'm going to talk to this I'm going to actually address that in a second. But let me finish up with this other one. So the jury thing, I found it kind of interesting. You know, the show called let's see, it comes out of the UK. I thought it was fascinating because hold on a second. Where is it? Of course, I can't find it. As I said, everything went missing off of this the entire page just disappeared. Everything I had set up. Okay. What is it? Anyway, it's called The Jury. God, what's the name of the jury? And I've got to redo it now because it's missing off of here. Jury show. It's called The Jury. It's called The Jury Murder Trial, Channel 4 documentary. And their season 1 had 2 different juries, and they came to 2 different conclusions. I thought that was fascinating because it proves that, hey, how often will one jury come to a different conclusion from another jury? So in other words, if a jury is deadlocked or it has to go to a second trial, is the second jury more right than the first jury? So you just keep rolling the dice until you get a 7? I mean, is that the methodology? So it bothers me where, like the Karen Reed trial, in the second trial, she was found not guilty. If you had 10 different juries, you probably come up with all these different versions of guilty, not guilty, hung jury, all that stuff. So if you can't have it be solid for the most part, then your jury system sucks because you're just rolling the dice. And actually the attorneys will tell you that's exactly what it is. They just say you're just rolling the dice and seeing what happens. That should not be what justice is about. So the first of the jury murder trial, the first season they had 2 juries that didn't agree. The second season they only have 1 jury, and I'm curious, is that because it kind of just proved that the civilian jury system may not be all that credible. So now they got to 1 jury. Solve that problem. But then somebody sent this really interesting thing to me, which I thought was hysterical. Is this it? Murder jury's Ouija board verdict. Yeah, an actual Ouija board. Can you believe this? Okay, so this is actually a true story. This is not made up. Let me find this one. Okay, come on, Ouija board. Where'd you go? I tell you, I'm so frustrated with everything vanishing on me. So I might have to pull this one up again too, because yep, it's gone. Everything's gone. Okay. Oh no, here it is. I actually didn't lose it. All right. Who killed you? The juries use a Ouija board to find a murderer guilty. In 1994, we're not even talking about 1600s, 1700s, 1994. An English insurance broker, Stephen Young, was found guilty of the gruesome double murder of Harry and Nicola Fuller. When the sentence came down, Sussex Police Detective Graham Hill I got some issues with Graham Hill, because especially on the show he does, believed justice had been served. The couple had been found dead on the floor of their home a year earlier with Nicola, I don't know how to pronounce her name, shot 3 times, and Harry shot in the back at close range. The lead investigator on the case, Mr. Hill, it is Mr. Hill, said the verdict, which followed a 5-week jury trial, marked the end of a difficult period. There was relief the case was finished. Obviously, all people that were involved in the prosecution were pleased the verdict was one of guilty, because there, as you can imagine, a huge amount of work goes into that. I get it. For the prosecution, they do believe they have the goods on somebody, and they found the killer. They want justice for the family and for the victims. I get it. So I'm not against Graham Hill's statement on that. 1 month after the trial had concluded, a front page headline of a now defunct News of the World newspaper appeared out of nowhere and hit like a shot. The report quoted the youngest member of the jury, 24-year-old Adrian, who said 4 jurors had tried to consult the spirits of the dead while locked overnight in Brighton's Old Ship Hotel. As other jurors slept, the small group sat on the floor around a crude Ouija board they had made out of a piece of paper in a hotel room wine glass, which apparently they drank a whole lot of that wine before they used the glass. They each put a finger on the top of the glass and asked a spirit to guide the glass over letters of the alphabet and the words yes or no. One juror, Ray, took charge of addressing the spirit. Oh yeah, because Ray had well, you can't manipulate juries, right? Or the jury. I've always had a problem with the guy who run, the one they get to, what do you call the guy? The major guy they pick for the jury foreman. I mean, there's a lot of bullying that goes on in juries. They bully and bully and bully. Why are you thinking that way? And I'm going to get to the whole thing about, you're talking about why do people believe in conspiracy theories? It's the same reason they can be hypnotized. It's the same reason you can be on a jury and be forced into, basically pushed into going along with the program. So in this case, Ray addressed the spirit, which identified itself via the glass as Harry Fuller. Ray asked, "Who killed you?" And the glass spelled out, "Stephen Young done it." He said, "How?" And the glass spelled out, "Shot." As the jurors discussed what they should do, the glass spelled out, "Vote guilty tomorrow." That spirit was really busy. At the end of the seance, some of the jurors were crying. A few jurors would later say they felt they had gone too far. Really? The group retired to their rooms and agreed not to tell the others what they had done. Just a few weeks later, their actions were causing controversy around the world. Graham Hill still remembers his disbelief when his neighbor passed him the newspaper front page over the garden fence. Probably your initial thought would be, well, it'll prove that that's a whole lot of nonsense. But the headline was just the beginning of the case, which would become one of the most high-profile examples of juror misbehaviors in the world. It says here, although they don't always try to make contact with ghosts, juror misbehavior is not uncommon, as I've been saying for God knows how long. Trials may be long and dull. Yes, they are. And packed with complicated evidence. Yes, they are. That frustrated jurors attempt to stay focused, which a lot of times, sometimes they're not even allowed to take notes. I can't even stay awake in a classroom. I mean, much less 8 hours worth of boring stuff on a jury. And the defense really wants you to be bored out of your mind. Some years ago, an Australian trial was called off when the judge discovered several jurors have been spending half of their time in court playing Sudoku while listening to detailed technical information on the manufacture of amphetamines. There is also the rise of online search engines and social media, both of which allow jurors to potentially find prejudicial information with ease. 12% of jurors in the UK was found in high-profile cases actively searched online for information. An Australian trial had already been jeopardized by a juror bringing in pages of Google research printed at home. Often misbehavior can be traced back to the disturbing nature of many trials, and blah, blah, blah. Say, while researching the Ouija board trial for his book, The Ouija Board Jurors, Mystery, Mischief, and Misery in the Jury Room. Oh, man, I'm going to like this guy. The University of Melbourne criminal law professor Jeremy Gans discovered the seance jurors were not the first group to hear the prosecutor's evidence. An earlier jury had played a tape of the emergency call. She had been made shot for the first woman was shot. That lasted a whole day before one of the jurors wrote a letter saying she couldn't go on. That the judge at that point said, okay, we'll just start with a new jury because he didn't want to have to work out how to deal with this one upset juror. Oh, this whole thing is fascinating. Cost of appeals and all that stuff. wow. I think I just may do a whole separate video on this. So if you're here for this today and I do a whole separate video, you might find it boring. But I think I might just do another whole separate video on this. I'm going to read this guy's book. I'm fascinated. But yeah. So they consulted the Ouija board. Whether the guy was very guilty or not, I haven't looked into that. But when you talk about why people believe in conspiracy theories, why do I have a problem with juries? Because I think they're bullied. So my sister went recently to a one of those stage hypnosis things, and brings people on stage. He's a very well-known guy, and then he hypnotizes them just like in seconds. He's like, okay, when I say 1, 2, 3, your eyes will close, and when I say 1, 2, 3, you'll try to open your eyes, but you won't be able to. And all these people are like, I can't open my eyes. And then he does a couple more things, and he goes, okay. When I ask you your name, you won't be able to remember the name. And he'd say, wait, 1, 2, 3, you open your eyes, but you won't remember your name. And they open their eyes, and he goes, what's your name? And they're like, I don't know. And then, of course, he makes them do stupid things like dance around or whatever. And I'm like, why is this happening? Why are these people so easily hypnotized? I mean, it's so quick. It's not like somebody sitting in a room with you and they're putting you into a meditative state and they're working with you for an hour in a peaceful situation. You're sitting on stage in front of a bunch of people and you can be hypnotized just like that. Don't buy it. And so the way it really works is the people who choose to do this are people who like to get attention. They want to be in front of an audience. They're going to be very cooperative. And when he finds people that don't quite fall for it, or go along with it, he just gets them off the stage quickly. And he says, you're not susceptible to, you're one of those people that isn't easily hypnotized. So we're going to work with these guys. And then they go along with the program because they don't want to be the one that ruins it all for everybody and it makes it no fun. So if they're asked, what's your name? I'm like, I don't know. So I went home. I mean, after I heard about this, my sis, I went online and I looked for one of those that does the same thing to you, but on the internet. Okay. It does exactly the same kind of hypnosis. So I put the thing on and I'm in the bed here in Hawaii and I'm comfortable. I'm not in front of an audience. I'm one of those people that I'm very resistant to that kind of crap. So there's no way I want to perform, so I don't want to do that. So, but at home, I'm like, whatever, if you can hypnotize me here in my bedroom, I don't really care, I'm by myself. If I I can't remember my name or I can't open my eyes, that'll be interesting and cool. So I was actually very cooperative. And he said, when I say 1, 2, 3, you will try to open your eyes, but you won't be able to. And you went 1, 2, 3, and I went, okay. And then it was like, you get your hands clasped together really tight. When I say 1, 2, 3, you won't be able to pull them apart. And he goes, 1, 2, 3. And I go, and then he said, 1, 2, 3. I said, my name is Pat. Didn't do a damn thing for me. Was it pleasant to lay there and hear his voice? Yeah, sure, whatever. Did it hypnotize me? No. And I liken this to something I saw. I went to the Polynesian Cultural Center here on Oahu. It's a kind of they do shows and stuff there. It's, you pay an incredible, outrageous amount. And the shows are supposed to represent you go to all the different islands of the Pacific, and you're supposed to Oceania, and, you're supposed to, a little bit, something from Fiji and something from Hawaii and something from Tahiti, all the different islands, and you're going to show you different things that they do. But every freaking time you sit down for one of these shows, they come out and instead of saying, here, we're going to do the show, and they start the show and you learn about the culture, they go, aloha. And everybody goes, and they go, aloha. Come on, audience, you can do better than that. Aloha. And then the whole audience goes, aloha. And they keep doing this audience stuff where they make the audience shout and say words, and it was annoying as hell. And I didn't say any of those words. And then we got in this. There was a boat that went through this little river thingy, and I like little boats that go through river thingies. I find them pleasant. If the guy had shut the hell up, I would have enjoyed him, moving the boat through this pretty area. But instead, we got on. He goes, aloha. I'm like, everybody, come on, you can do better. Aloha. And I'm watching this one man near me. And and by the way, this is Mormon run, so there's no alcohol. So you can't even blame people's behavior on alcohol. But people were doing everything that they were told to do. They did like trained monkeys. So the tourists were totally into this. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? What's wrong with these people? Why are they doing this? It's humiliating, in my opinion. But they like it. They find it fun. They find it energizing. And apparently I'm the one who is the weirdo who doesn't want to do it. And after that, I did one show and one boat ride. And I said, I can't do this anymore. I cannot go into another show and hear this damn aloha, because to me, it was disrespectful to Hawaii and disrespectful to the cultures that they were trying to represent by doing all this nonsense audience bullcrap. But I am not apparently normal. That's not what most of the people were pretty much into that. So you take these same people and you put them into a jury room, and you got those kind of people, those people who are willing to be jurors to begin with, two, couldn't get out of jury duty and couldn't figure that out, or want to go home. They're susceptible to group mind control, and so that's what you basically have, group mind control. It's not that they are like unaware. It's just that they're willing to go along with it. So with conspiracy theories, it's the same thing. It's like, this is exciting, more exciting. If I go along with this, then I'll be part of the group. I'll be important. I'll be able to do something. So I have to believe that Noah Donohoe was murdered. I have to believe that it's an inside job for Nancy Guthrie, even though maybe, but there's no proof of that. There's never been any shred of proof of that. So why are you going there? So there are conspiracy theories that are actually based on evidence that there is actually a conspiracy, but a lot of it is people wanting to be part of a group. That's how come certain groups are able to control people so easily, cult groups and things like that, because that's a kind of human nature. And because that's kind of human nature, we actually have to do something to sometimes fight against human nature. It's like, okay, that's what people were more willing to do, but maybe we shouldn't. Like, people will do drugs. You offer them drugs. Too many people will do drugs. That's why we shouldn't allow drugs to exist. Otherwise, it will destroy our country, which it is. Porn is the same way. So the things that we allow, because we're like, oh, well, people have the right to choose. Well, the problem is they do choose, but too many of them choose to do the things that are unhealthy, and too much where they say, oh, I'm just a regular person. I'm part of the group. And that affects also the jury system. So that's my take on all of that. Okay, I'm trying to. Yeah, don't get political. Yeah, I know. By political, when I mean political, I don't want don't trash one country or the other. Don't bring up the present news. Yeah, I've been hypnotized, but I still knew everything that was going on around me. Yes, because you're actually. That's the whole point. I don't know what they actually mean by hypnotized a lot of times, because if you're aware of everything that's going on around you, you are still cognizant, and therefore your brain is still functioning. But you are willing, your brain and yourself are willing to go along with a certain program for whatever reasons. So hypnotized is, some of that is questionable to me, what that exactly means. What guy? I just say his name in the book title. Okay. I'm going to go get this. I think I have to get this book. His name is Jeremy Gans, Gans. And the book title is The Ouija Board Jurors. Well, that makes it easy. Mischief and Misery in the Jury Room. I don't know. I hope it's on Amazon, like for $1.99 through Kindle. So I'm gonna read it. You think? Yeah, the guy that was running it. Yeah, he was obviously in charge. So the three judges, the panel of three judges. The only reason I have a problem with a panel of three judges, I would say three judges is better than one judge, but they're still lawyers. And I kind of would like to get it out of the hands of just the lawyers. So where to me, a professional jury would not be part of the legal community, the law community, because that is kind of an incestuous place where people, both prosecution and defense attorneys, go play golf together. I would like these people to be selected from a professional jury pool. And of course, I'm not saying it's an easy thing to to manage because of the number of cases that are out, where how far would these people have to travel, how much would you have to pay them, and all that crap. But I do believe that one thing a professional jury would do is would minimize the amount of time you need to be at trial, because the reason trials go on so long is because the defense attorneys will throw everything they can at the wall and manipulate the juries for as long as they can. And therefore, that would probably save a lot of money just by shortening the trials. Well, if you would rather take your risk with a jury, especially if you're guilty, you definitely want to do that. That's the whole point. Yeah, because most people that go to trial, most people are guilty. That's why most trials people don't really get all bent out of shape about, because the jury finds them guilty and say, look, the jury did their job. Well, it's because it was easy. It was easy to figure out that they did it. And then if you didn't, but if they find out if the jury comes and says you didn't do it, then you're happy because you were guilty to begin with. It's a pretty rare case that you actually have a person who didn't do it and the jury finds they didn't do it. Occasionally that's true, and that's wonderful. But I don't know that the judge wouldn't have found them not guilty. So, yeah. You have to be open to be hypnotized. The trances, well, I don't believe that they're necessarily trances. I'm sorry, I don't believe in the trance stuff. I think a lot of the trance stuff is drama. I think you're being played, especially if you're talking about people who do that psychic crap, where they go into a trance and whatever. That's all fake. Don't believe that crap. They're not in any trance. They're in a state that people don't understand how certain people are very good at creating what appears to be real. I mean, I could sit here in front of you and I could make you believe in something, because I've done television for years. I've done this for years. I do a lot of stream of consciousness stuff, even in these YouTube videos. It's, people say, well, you obviously know I don't have an outline of what I'm going to say. I jump all over the place. I do stream of consciousness. I look at things and then I talk, and that's the way I do it. And so I could do the same thing if I wanted to pretend to be a psychic. I could do that in a heartbeat. I could talk about Nancy Guthrie and how, I could start closing my eyes and I could say, I'm now at Nancy Guthrie's house and I can see it's dark and it's blah, blah, blah. And I could just make up bullcrap. And people who want to believe it will believe it. That's the problem. You are susceptible to believing stuff. And that's how come you have these psychic channels of ludicrous crap, absolute ludicrous garbage. And yet they've got 1 million subscribers because people want to believe stuff. They want to believe that people can contact. They want to know something about what they don't know. And I understand why they want that, but they will believe the most nonsensical junk ever because they're susceptible to being part of a group that believes these things. And it gives you a place to be, and it gives you a place where you can feel like you know things that, you wouldn't know otherwise. But I'll tell you, most of it's just completely fake and nonsense. So, some places do have. I know that I think it's India has a 5-judge system. They dumped their jury system after a horrific trial where the jury let this completely obviously guilty guy off, and then there was a bunch of other things pushed at that. But they're in a 5-judge system now, so. You can ask for a judge as opposed to a jury. You can ask that, but most people who are guilty don't want that judge. They want the jury. Yes, most of them do pick and pick because they're guilty. I mean, most of the cases are obvious. That's the problem. And depending on how much attention they get in the media, it's also how much effect it has on the jury. I mean, you get a little low-life piece of crap, and and pretty much he's obviously guilty, and the jury's like, yeah, let's put him away. We don't want him in our neighborhood. But then other cases, they get completely caught up in a whole bunch of stuff that the defense attorney is playing them, and people on the internet are, and the Karen Reed trial, just outrageous conspiracy theory crap that apparently had an effect on the jury. And so she walks. So there you go. Well, I do think most of it is, so we'll have to disagree on that. I'm very anti-psychics. I'm very anti, what do you call them? Ones who do the trance stuff. Forgot what they are. I'm very much against that. Yes, I believe most of that is showmanship. I believe you're being sold something that's not true. That's my personal belief. Do I believe some people go into trances? I also believe some people have mental issues. I do. I believe they have emotional issues, and they, for example, and they are willing to feel things and go places that are more of an emotional and mental issue than they are anything real. Now, do I also? But I'll say this: I'm not against meditation. I've done meditation and I've seen things in meditation. I'm very interested. You could call that a trance, but I'm not in a trance. I'm in a place where I'm receptive to, essentially, understanding things. I suppose you could put it that way. But I do that as a personal thing. I don't do that and sell it. And I think a lot of people confuse like prayer and meditation with people on the internet who are selling this garbage, and psychics who come out to say, oh, they know where the body's buried and they know what happened to Nancy Guthrie. And that is garbage. And I'm sorry, I will never support that. I will never do it because it's harmful to the police investigation. It's harmful to the families. And I don't like to see people being ripped off for huge amounts of money because they can contact their dead loved one. You know, they don't have any ability to contact your dead loved one. You might, because, you know, there may be something we don't quite understand. Maybe maybe your loved one does want to connect with you. And there's a spiritual world. I'm not against that. But when you're paying somebody ridiculous sums of money because they say they're going to contact your dead loved one, you're being taken. So that's my opinion. So if you don't, you know, if you're not in a your brain may, you're just thinking about something else. That's not a trance. Your brain has the ability to focus on enough of the road to be able to go because you're comfortable with that road, and have your brain think about something else. That's not really a trance. That's just the way brains operate. But okay, we're gonna have to stop talking about it. CJ, end of discussion. I'm not going to get into discussion on paranormal type of stuff here. It's just I don't want to. Okay, so let's stop. Take that someplace else because I'm sure there's a lot of places on the internet who would love to discuss that with you, but I'm not going to do that anymore. So the reason I discuss that is because I do believe that group thinking and that willingness to be led and is important in the jury system. That's where the importance is. So anyway, I want to talk about, let's see, we've got so many interesting things here. Somebody asked me about Allan Lee Philips. Oh, which one do I want to talk about first? Oh, I got to talk about this guy first. So I'm going to go to Allan Lee in a second. But I want to talk about this guy. This absolute piece of whatever he is. Ivan Miller, 22 years old, triple homicide. He killed, let me read you what he did. In Wayne County, about 200 miles south of Salt Lake City, there were two women went hiking, two friends and their husbands. Somebody found two deceased females on a hiking trail, shot to death. And then prior to the killing of the women there on the hiking trail, this guy also killed an older woman in her home about 15 miles away. And I had to laugh because this is a horrible case, and I'm going to get to the horrible part. But this was from CNN. Now, none of the other channels and media outlets did this, but CNN did this. And I'm like, you need to learn how to write properly, because this is what they wrote next. Miller told officials that he'd been staying at a hotel in the area for a few days after he hit an elk with his truck, which he then sold to a tow truck company. I'm like, wow, he sold roadkill to a tow truck company? Let me look at it again. He said he hit an elk with his truck, which he then sold to a tow truck company. Of course, he actually sold his truck, not the elk, but you need to learn how to write CNN. But I cracked up because the minute I read it, I actually thought he sold the elk. I didn't know he'd mashed up his truck. So I just thought that was really funny. I'm like, what? Okay, we don't need to educate here on that. This is a criminal profiling channel. Take it someplace else. Okay, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you can't believe it. I'm just saying this is not a place to talk about paranormal stuff or trances. Please remove it to some other place, or I'll have to block you. That's I mean, not trying to be mean, but we need to stay on topic and not go someplace else with stuff. Okay. Spelling, grammar, and punctuation count. They do. Rogue kill sale skills. Yeah. I mean, you know, yeah, it was just so funny. I mean, it's like, I'm like, what? Anyway, but this guy, what a piece of garbage. And let me find the other thing that talks about what happened later. Okay, hold on a second. I want to find him. Hold on. The one that's written better and more recently. Okay, is it this one? I want to make sure it's not still CNN. Come on, give me the one that's not CNN. Okay, let's see. It's this one. Shoot. Okay, he said, oh, where'd it go? Darn it. Hold on a second. I've lost it. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Suspect in Utah killings of 3 women was free on an Iowa burglary and other charges. A man accused of killing 3 women in Utah, the 2 women on the path, the one woman in her home. He stole their cars and credit cards and was already known to police in Iowa. He was arrested there on suspicion of breaking into a cabin about 2 months prior. They released him without bail, and he vowed to appear in court for the next court appearance. But he missed the arraignment because he was in jail after they tracked him there in one of the stolen vehicles. All right. He claimed that he had to kill them. He stole the cars and credit cards because he needed to get back to Iowa. So, you know, he had to do it. You know, and the problem was when he hit this elk and didn't sell the elk, he sold the pickup truck to a tow company, leaving him without a vehicle. See, I thought he still had the vehicle. I thought he sold the elk. But he sold this pickup truck to the tow company, leaving him without a vehicle. After staying in hotels for a few days, he slept in a shed on 86-year-old Margaret Oldroyd's property without her knowledge. And then he killed her and stole her Buick. And then he parked the Buick outside of the national park, and he saw 2 women get out of a Subaru, and he killed them before taking their car. So Linda Dewey, 65, and her niece, Natalie Graves, 34, were killed and found in a dry creek bed because he wanted their cars and maybe some money that they had. And he had to do it. So, but you know, it's the way that somebody that 22 years old, just none of that matters. I mean, he did it. You know, when you look at, he's what you call a spree killer. He wasn't raping. Well, that was nice of him. So he wasn't a serial killer. You know, it wasn't committing sexual homicides. They were just in his way. Now, one would think that he could have just carjacked the cars without killing the women. The other woman in her home, he probably could have just hit her over the head and not killed her, or, you know, whatever, just told her to turn around and go sit in a corner. And then he could steal all the crap he could get. But but he was just killing because he felt like killing. There are easier ways of getting out of things, and easier ways of getting money without killing people. But some people just don't mind killing people, and that's a fact. So you just don't do that. Not to get to Iowa. Got a point there. You know, Iowans are going, no, Iowa's a great place. But you know, this is the concept that people a lot of times have is like, why would they kill their wife instead of getting divorced? Because in their mind, getting divorced is more work than killing the wife. You know, if you get divorced, you got to deal with her for the rest of your life, maybe child support and all that nonsense. But if you just kill her, she's out of the way. So some people think, well, I don't really mind killing people. You know, so I shot her, whatever. Didn't matter, because If you're that psychopathic, you don't care about human beings. You don't feel any empathy for them. So they're dead. They're dead. Big deal. Big deal. And obviously there's easier ways to do things, but if you got a gun, you might as well use it, right? So that's scary when you get those kind of people out there in the world, that's the action they will take rather than something as simpler. And you think, why not have just done the simpler thing? Because do you really need to eliminate a witness if all you need to do is, you probably could have hitchhiked, but you probably would have killed the guy who hitchhiked from and stole his vehicle. So, but that's the way sometimes they work. And so there, another one about is, I want to mention was the Caffey family. Somebody had said, well, what about this girl? Well, because she had an easier way out too. Where is she? So where is that one? Okay, where is that girl? Oh, here she is. Is that her? Oh no, that's what's her face again. Here she is. With her name is Erin Caffey. She was 16, and she's having a great time because she's in prison. She got an interview with Pierce Morgan, and she got an interview with what's his face? Jason, I'm blanking here. The guy I can't stand. Okay, what's his name? Oh yeah, Dr. Phil. Sorry, Dr. Phil. Yeah. She got to talk to both of them, and then the behavior panel used that to do a behavior panel show. Where they said, "Boy, is she a psychopath?" Which she clearly is. But she was 16 when she got her boyfriend to kill off her family, and a couple other people were involved in it too. So it's amazing how many people she got to she organized this thing. She organized the murder of her mother, Penny Caffey. I think I have a picture of the family here. Yeah, she killed her mother, Penny Caffey, her younger brothers, Matthew, 13, and Tyler, 8. Her father was the only one that escaped. Her father, Terry, he was shot 5 times, but he survived. The murders were committed by Erin's then boyfriend, Charlie Wilkinson, and his friend, Charles Wade, with Wade's girlfriend, Bobby Johnson, acting as a getaway driver. Erin and Wilkinson planned the murder for a month after Erin's parents disapproved of their relationship because they're like, what are you doing with that psychopath? He's a creepy dude. And they didn't approve of it. The crime gained notoriety for its violent nature, with one of Erin's brothers being stabbed repeatedly and her mother almost decapitated. And the brother saying, why are you doing this? Because he knew who it was. They were devout Christians and part of the Miracle Faith Baptist Church. And Erin was in church choir and Terry was a youth pastor. Lived in Alba, Texas. They were homeschooled for 3 years and were taught a Bible-based curriculum. Erin was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, a reason for the homeschooling. They had re-enrolled at a public school 6 months prior to the murders, and she was going to Rains High School. Maybe they shouldn't have sent her there. And people often get into, unfortunately, what they'll try to do is say because they're a certain religion, that's why the kids turn out the way they were homeschooled. Hey, my 3 kids were homeschooled, didn't murder anybody. I homeschooled my children all the way through, so my kids never attended. Well, actually, they attended school for 3 months. They did. They attended school for 3 months while I took this one job because they wanted to try school. And after 3 months, they're like, yeah, we're done. So, so I went back to homeschool. But supposedly the family was killed because they disapproved of the daughter's boyfriend. But apparently she'd asked the previous boyfriend to kill her family too. So I don't think that was the reason. And then you can say, because they disapproved of their relationship, wouldn't it be easier to run away together than to kill the whole family? Because then you have a massive murder investigation and probably you're going to get caught, which most of them do. Also, if your parents were pissing you off, why would you kill your brothers? So the simple fact is, you got a psychopath meets a psychopath. They're into violence. The thrill of the kill was really what they were all about. They didn't have an issue doing that. The kill, it was them. Whenever you have a teenager with a sword decapitating people, they're into that whole violent kind of ninja crap and and stabbing and shooting and just doing. The murder is the fun part, and it has nothing to do with anybody saying you can't have a relationship. So that's just nonsense. And luckily, all of them did get convicted. She is still in prison, thank God. Although she got these 2 interviews, I'm sure she enjoyed them. Although she didn't come off well on either of them, so you can watch them on YouTube. But hopefully she'll never get out. Hopefully he'll never get out. And the people she didn't actually do the stabbing and shooting. She just got them to do it for her. And this is true most of the time when girls want to do in their families, they get their boyfriend to do it. And the boyfriends are fairly willing for whatever reasons, because usually they pick boyfriends who have a violent streak in them, a sadistic violent streak. They're not picking a type of guy who wouldn't do it. I mean, what's the point? If the guy's a sweet guy, he's not going to go kill your family for you. But if you got a guy who's already a sadist, who already loves the concept of killing people in blood and wants to know what it's like to murder, he's your guy. He's the guy you want for your boyfriend. Yay, pick him out. And so I guess the first guy just didn't work out. They don't. They think, first of all, they often think they won't get caught. That's the number one reason. They're arrogant. And they just think they won't get caught, and they just think they'll just get away with it. Yeah, that's a good point, Christoph. So apart from the moral, ethical aspect, killing a spouse is really stupid. 99.87% of cases are solved. Well, because the spouse is always the obvious suspect in these cases, and that's why they do get solved, because they don't usually know how to do it very well. Although some do manage it. I mean, it has been managed, but usually they eventually get caught. So you watched the interview. It's interesting. She's very psychopathic. I'll put it that way. Who was the guy that just killed his? Okay, the guy that did just kill his wife. Let's find him. Is this the guy? Yeah. Caleb Flynn is accused of shooting and killing his wife, Ashleigh Flynn. And apparently he was one of those that got the 911 call. He pretty much was suspected right there of killing her. Ex-American Idol contestant staged a crime scene and alleged murder of wife. He told 911 somebody broke into the Ohio home, but police found the refrigerator blocking the alleged entry point. You're a moron. So he first called somebody in the phone call. He's like, right away, just somebody broke into the home. And by the way, my wife is dying, dead, because the most important thing is to make sure that people know somebody's breaking into your home. So he's accused of killing his wife. She was a mother, teacher, and volleyball coach. Let's see. He killed her in their Tip City, Ohio home. And then he claimed someone had broken into the home and shot her twice. Not him, of course, her. So he's been charged with murder, 2 counts of felonious assault with a deadly weapon, 2 counts of tampering with evidence. He tried to change the crime scene to lead them astray. Yeah. As we exited the master bedroom, we walked to the garage where we reserved a side door to the garage on the north side of the home that was open. As we were looking at the door, we noticed the door had a large fridge in front of it that would have had to be pushed to open the door. So, I mean, that was really stupid, Police also noticed that the center console of a 2024 Ford truck parked in the garage was open, which is the same place he allegedly told officers he stored his handgun. So somebody came in, got into his truck, stole his handgun, and then came in and killed his wife. Okay. He told the dispatcher someone broke into his house and killed his wife. Oh my God. So I love it. Somebody start with, oh my God, as part of their fake phone call. Oh my God, somebody broke into my home. That's the most important thing. The first thing they say is the most important thing. And he wants you to know somebody broke into his home, because that means he didn't do it. Somebody broke into my home. Somebody broke into my home and shot my wife. My wife, she's got 2 shots to her head. There's blood everywhere. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Well, first of all, there was so much blood, there was no way to know there were 2 shots and not 1 shot or 3 shots, which is interesting right there. When asked if Ashleigh Finn was breathing, he responded, no, I don't think so. Ashleigh, baby, please, oh my God, no, she's not. Notably, he claimed the door leading to the garage door was wide open at the time. And so anyway, he's probably going to go down. I absolutely love the Lord. I love my wife more than anything. She is very, very pretty. I love her. What? You know, I'm just a normal person who absolutely loves to sing more than anything in the world. Let's go back to that statement. I love my wife more than anything. She is very, very pretty. I love her. What do you know? Something's out of place there. Sometimes when people say something, there's one thing that just strikes you as being off. Yeah, it's called the 911 was crazy. Yeah, it didn't work so well. I have what part of that statement do I have a problem with? I love my wife more than anything. She is very, very pretty. I love her. Very, very shallow. Very, very. Yeah. I have a problem with she's very, very pretty. It stands out to me as being off. And then I wonder what the issue was. Was he jealous of her? Did he think she was attracting other men's attention? I haven't seen any yet. I'm not sure as to what the motive is here, but I don't like she's very, very pretty. I mean, your wife has been killed. I loved her so much. She was my soulmate. She was the mother of my children, but she's very, very pretty. She only loves her because she's very pretty. But I think the prettiness is the issue in the murder. I'll have to look that up. I wonder whether he was obsessively jealous over her because she was pretty, and that's what set him off. So I wanted to find out. I don't know if there's anything saying here what was going on, whether she was cheating on him or he thought she was cheating on him. So let's see if there's anything here about motive and Caleb Flynn. I can't pronounce his name. Let's see if there's anything here. Okay. Indicated potential fact. Suspected affair. Reports suggest that investigators found evidence of, quote, heavy communication between Caleb Flynn and an unidentified woman in hours. Impending divorce. Social media discussions have raised questions about marital issues. Ashleigh Flynn had initiated the divorce process, which I wouldn't be surprised. She was looking into financial records, insurance policies. I'm going to have to look into that. I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more. Yes, that is true. The 911 are the first interviews. They're very telling. Yes, but one has to be a little careful. Sometimes I've seen people, because they believe the person's guilty, then find something amiss in the 911. So you got to be a little bit careful about that. So, yeah. Tip for murderers: consult your solicitor before calling 911. Yeah. So, but and the other guy I wanted to talk about, which people had asked me about, was where is he? This was Allan Lee Philips. So I don't know why so many serial killers have Lee in the middle name. That is interesting. Anyway, these 2 women were murdered. Where are they? These two women, 2 young women. So he got finally caught by genetic genealogy and for a 1982 murder. So 40 years had passed. He'd gotten away with it. At the time, let's see, a picture of this guy. Is that him? Yeah, that's what he looked like at the time. He was a young man at the time. So what happened here? On the same night, 2 women were killed near Breckenridge, Colorado in January of 1982. Rescuers pulled a miner from a snowdrift during a blinding storm. Decades later, DNA evidence showed that the stranded driver, Allan Lee Philips, was the man who killed them. Both were hitchhiking. Again, I keep saying, don't hitchhike. Hitchhiking separately after work in a busy ski town. Annette Schnee, 21, was last seen around 4:45 p.m., leaving a Breckenridge drugstore with medication. At 6:21 p.m., Barbara Bobby Joe Oberholzer, 29, called her husband from a pub to say she had arrived. She was seen again about 7:50 p.m. before she disappeared. By the next day, friends and searchers began finding Oberholzer's belongings along a roadside near Hoosier Pass. Her distinctive blue backpack, a bloody glove, and tissue. And that afternoon, around 3 p.m., her body was discovered in a snowbank. She had been shot, and zip ties were on one wrist. And when you ever see zip ties, that's usually a sexual homicide of some sort. Investigators also discovered a brass key ring her husband had made for her to defend herself. That did not work, which, these things you wish would work. However, that brass key ring did do something, and unfortunately, I feel like the police dropped the ball on this one. And also a single orange booty sock was found, which at the time had no obvious connection to anything. So a sock with her was not her sock, this orange sock. It was just one of those mysterious things you pick up at a crime scene you keep until you know what it is or will never find out. Authorities didn't realize that Schnee was missing until 2 days later when a coworker said she hadn't shown up for work. A young boy fishing discovered Schnee's body face down in a stream about 20 miles south of Breckenridge. She had been shot in the back and her clothing was in disarray. The medical examiner noted an orange booty sock on her foot, matching the one from the other crime scene. So that formally linked the cases. So they knew that these were linked cases. And if you've got 2 different women, with one with ties around her hand, another with clothes in disarray, that's a serial killer. You should be looking for a serial killer right there. Hours after they were murdered, that same night, rescuers responded to a pickup truck in a snowdrift on a mountain pass outside Breckenridge. The driver was Allan Lee Philips, according to 48 Hours. He used his truck's headlights to signal SOS in Morse code, which a sheriff aboard a commercial flight spotted and radioed down. Local fire chief Dave Montoya pulled him out and noted a prominent bruise on his face, which was from that keyring when the girl was trying to protect herself. He initially said he had fallen while wandering in the snow, according to CBS. Although investigations later concluded Oberholzer likely had struck him with a brass key ring as she fought back. Yeah, so he said he fell in the snow, and that's how he got the bruise on his head. I don't know, the snow usually does that to you, but okay. For decades in between, the trail ran cold until they did genetic genealogy for the bloody items, and it pointed to 2 brothers with Phillips' surname. Only Phillips lived in Colorado. They collected his DNA from discarded trash, saliva on a Sonic driving bag, and it matched the blood recovered from her belongings. And later testing on the orange sock, booty sock link reinforced the link between the victims. He was convicted after 5 hours of deliberation and sentenced in 2022 to 2 life terms. He died by suicide at the facility. Okay, so one of the questions I had was asked was, do I think he killed more people? This guy's a serial killer. He attacked 2 girls in one night, killed both of them. Do I believe in all those decades later that he never did it again? No. I believe that the callousness in which he did this and how quickly he went from one victim to another shows me that he's the kind of guy that is probably going to do it again. So yes, I don't know if they've linked him to anything else out there, but they should. And they should find something, because I don't believe he just went on with it, being a perfectly normal guy after that and never raped or murdered again. I don't believe that. What bothers me is that the whole thing about him in a snowbank, There have been quite a few serial killers who've gotten in trouble because when they're trying to dump a body or they're fighting with somebody in a vehicle or whatever they're doing, their vehicle ends up in mud or ends up going off the road somehow and they get stuck. He wouldn't be the first serial killer to have to ask the police to get his vehicle out of this close by the place where he just killed somebody. How this guy, who two girls right in that area, he's in a snowbank, he's got a bruise on his head. I don't know how he wasn't a number one suspect right away. Now they didn't have. I don't know whether he was a suspect and they just never could prove it. The articles aren't saying that. So, but if he was a suspect right away, and they couldn't come up with enough stuff to arrest him, I'm okay with that because that's the way it works sometimes. But if they never looked at him, I would think they really made a huge mistake, because here you have a suspect right on a silver plate, right when the girls get killed, and if you just let him walk away because he made up a story, and you never thought he was connected, is ridiculous in my opinion. And I've seen that happen in a number of cases where I'm like, why didn't you look at that guy? Why not? Because he should be one of your number one suspects. Not that he is the guy, but he should be high on the suspect list. So that bothers me. And also something I've always wished they would implement was and I don't know, probably people will say this is unconstitutional, or it shouldn't, you're not guilty of anything, therefore they should have no right to keep the information or share the information. So I've always wanted to have a suspect bank. Suspect bank, meaning that, and the suspect bank is not necessarily suspects or witness, it's just people connected to any crime. So in other words, we got computers, you just go and you take that one crime and you put in all the names of everybody that you interview. Everybody. And if your killer is in that interview list, what might happen is 5 years later in another town, somebody might have been killed, and then they go and they put all that same group of people, their list of witnesses, into that same witness/suspect bank, interviewee bank. They just put it in there, and boom, there's a connection to a case 5 years ago. So you're like, wait a minute, this guy that I just interviewed was interviewed in a case 5 years ago. What are the chances? Then you might see that there's a connection between those two cases, and you might get yourself a serial killer. But that has never been done, and I don't know how to make it be done. I think it'd be a great idea. I do. Seriously? No. What? She was in the trunk when they towed his rig out of the ditch? Really? Oh my God, it gets even worse. Well, I mean, everyone would be in the suspect bank. Well, that's not true. I mean, that isn't true. Like I been, okay. I would say I might be in a couple. I might be in a couple. So, I mean, you can end up, as just a person who's speaking on something. Yeah, I'm a witness. I saw something, or I lived in the same complex. It would be more a case of under what circumstances were you connected to the case? How often are you connected to cases? In what way? So and what are the odds? It's like when somebody gets caught with a genetic DNA, and somebody says, well, why do you think? I mean, why would you think that's the only thing you got is that genetic DNA? And you say, I'm the person who killed that person in Colorado. I said, well, you've been living in whatever state you've been living in, but where were you living at the time the girl was killed in Colorado? Well, I was living in Colorado. How close to where the girl was killed were you living? Well, I was living in the same town. I was living in the next apartment building. It's like, so, what are the chances your DNA is at the scene and we're living there? It wasn't like it got screwed up. Like if it was like a lab error and, you're like, well, I've never been in Colorado. I've never lived in Colorado. So how's my DNA in Colorado? I've never even been there. But that's not usually what it works out. Usually it's like it identifies somebody, and sure enough, that person was there at the time, was the security guard at the bar, or was the next door neighbor, or was the boyfriend, or whatever it was. There's a real connection. So if you pop up in a bunch of interviewee data bank, and you show up at 4 different crime scenes as an interviewee, maybe there's a reason for it. I'm not saying it makes you guilty of anything, but it would be interesting. So, oh, you think that was a different case? Okay, I would say I don't know yet. I may look into this case a little bit more because I kind of like to know how all that happened. Let me see if there's anything else I want to talk about before I go eat some food because I'm really hungry. Oh, well, I think this is really important. This is a really important case because I mean, this is where is it? Wait a minute, I don't know what that is. Hold on, what picture is this? No, sorry, wrong picture. Where's my picture? Do I have a picture? Hold on, trying to find it. Yeah, maybe I don't have one. All right, but this is really important. A Florida man. Oh, here he is. I don't know why I don't have my picture, but here he is. He says this guy, and that dolphin is the the dolphin is the perpetrator. March 2026, a Florida man claimed he was kidnapped by dolphins and forced to build an underwater city. So this man was a sunburned man. His name is Ricky James Hollowell, and this is what happened to him. He was found sunburned and disoriented on the Sanibel Causeway, claiming he was kidnapped by dolphins and forced to build an underwater city. Lee County Sheriff's deputies responded to Sanibel Causeway early Monday after motorists reported seeing a man standing on the shoulder, soaking wet and drawing blueprints in the sand. According to the police report, Ricky James Hollowell, 33, was found barefoot, severely sunburned, and wearing only swim trunks. He told deputies he'd been taken against his will by a pod of dolphins 3 days ago and forced to work on what he called an underground construction project. According to Hollowell and the police report, he claimed that dolphins approached him while he was swimming off of Fort Myers Beach, and they escorted him to a site approximately 40 feet below the surface, where they needed help building structures. He told officers that dolphins communicated through, quote, a series of clicks that he eventually learned to interpret, and that the project foreman was a dolphin he referred to as Gerald. When asked how he breathed underwater for 3 days, he said, "Gerald handled that. I didn't ask questions. You don't question Gerald." He had drawn an elaborate blueprint in the sand that deputies described as detailed enough to be concerning, including what happened to be appeared to be condos, a town square, and a recreation center. He told officers he was released because, quote, the dolphins were satisfied with his work, but that Gerald said they'll be back for phase 2. Responding Deputy Sean Oakley told reporters, "I've been with the sheriff's office 11 years. The blueprints are the part that got me. He had zoning." Hollowell was transported for medical evaluation. Gerald was unavailable for comment. Some men build cities on land. Ricky Hollowell claims he built one underwater for dolphins, and honestly, the blueprints were hard to argue with. Of course, this has been spread all over the internet. People are reading this and saying, oh my God, and it's got names, it's got the police department, it's got this incredible story. And of course, it's 100% fake. Again, but the amount of people believing this, I mean, it could be true that this guy was a Looney Tune and he was caught thinking he'd been kidnapped by dolphins. But the reality is he wasn't kidnapped by dolphins because he doesn't even exist and the dolphins never did anything. So none of it is, not even the fake stuff is, the fake stuff that would have been fake isn't true either. So it's just a complete phony story. And this is the stuff that keeps going around and around on the internet. And this is what is getting, algorithm will push that story so that all those true crime lovers will find that story talk about people willing to believe stuff. A good portion of them will believe this is a true story, not because they think that the story about the dolphins is true, but they think that there's this crazy guy who said he was kidnapped by dolphins, which could have happened. So what's happening now is they're people out there, the AI is creating stories with names and places that could be true stories, and people are falling for it. So yeah. Keep stealing everyone's joy, Pat. Yeah, I'm sorry, but that was a pretty good fake story. That I got to admit, that was rather amusing, at least, if nothing else, it was that. So, so I did appreciate the humor of it. But and I'm and if it was just a fake, if it was listed as just a funny story, it would be fine to me. What bothers me is that it's yeah. And okay, the last thing I want to talk about is Lindsay Clancy. She's now in court for the murder of her 3 children, and it's interesting this new defense method is pretty snazzy. Nurse claims a voice told her to kill her 3 kids, and is now suing the medical team for not stopping her. All right. A former Massachusetts nurse is accused of strangling her 3 children to death in a family home before attempting to take her own life. Claims a chilling, quote, voice in her head pushed her toward the unthinkable. You should harm your children. You should kill yourself. You will never be the same. The only option is to die. That voice told Lindsay Clancy. According to the lawsuit she filed against the mental health providers who treated her before the killings. Clancy, who is charged with murdering her children, Cora 5, Dawson 3, and 8-month-old Callum, claims doctors missed clear warning signs as her mental health rapidly deteriorated and failed to properly treat her. The lawsuits are filed, one by Lindsay Clancy and another by her husband. Patrick Clancy accused several mental health providers of wrongful death and medical negligence. They seek unspecified damages in a jury trial. Prosecutors allege she strangled her children with exercise bands after sending her husband to get takeout food. An hour later, returned home to find she had attempted to take her life by cutting her wrists and jumping from a 2nd-story window. Which I don't actually believe she was trying to kill herself. I believe she was trying to look like she was trying to kill herself. If she's really paralyzed, she got unlucky when she hit the ground. She just hit the ground funny and somehow messed up her back. But I think the intention was to look like she was killing herself, not that she really was. The former labor and delivery nurse survived the suicide attempt, was left paralyzed from the chest down, is now in a wheelchair. She has been held in Tewksbury State Hospital while awaiting the murder trial. New filings paint a disturbing picture of Clancy's mental decline in the months before the killings. They claim Clancy, who had previously struggled with anxiety and postpartum depression after her 2nd child, became increasingly fearful about returning to work after the birth of her youngest son. What? Okay, I'm a little confused on that. First of all, I think if you really have severe anxiety and postpartum depression with your 2nd kid, probably shouldn't have the 3rd one. But anyway. And why are you having a problem going to work? Because if at least at work, you're away from the kid. So I'm not sure what the issue there is. But anyway, she desperately sought psychiatric help that September as her mental health spiraled. But instead of stabilizing her, the medication she was prescribed allegedly made her condition worse, leaving her sleeping only about 3 hours a night and eventually triggering suicidal thoughts. Those thoughts included the idea she should kill her children before taking her own life so they would not suffer without her, Patrick Clancy's lawsuit claims. The tragedy that followed was direct and proximate result of the defendant's collective negligence in failing to recognize obvious warning signs, coordinate care, properly diagnose Lindsay's condition, and provide treatment that met the applicable standard of care. In the days before the killing, he told the doctors his wife was having horrible thoughts throughout the day and had admitted to him and her mother that she was thinking about harming the children. Okay, but you left the children alone with her. You didn't. Why was she there at the house? If she wants to kill herself and the children, she shouldn't be with the children, and she shouldn't be alone herself. Somebody should be with her, or she should be in a mental health, she should be in a psych ward. But instead, he goes off to buy food. She heard a voice saying, you should harm the children, you should kill yourself, you'll never be the same, the only option is to die. The lawsuit alleges her psychiatrist spent only 17 minutes with her during each appointment, including a visit the day before the killings. It said she repeatedly tried to get help, including going to an emergency department, checking herself into inpatient treatment, and contacting crisis hotlines, while telling providers the medication she's been prescribed are making the condition worse. She is a nurse. And one of the top professions of Munchausen syndrome and Munchausen syndrome by proxy is nursing. She knew everything. Especially she worked in labor and delivery. She knew about all the issues that she supposedly had. And yet, she couldn't make one decision that made any sense. Or was she doing this because she was setting up her plan to kill the children, as she sent her husband away to kill while she wanted to kill the children? Why did she look up that she was whether she was a psychopath on the internet? Well, because she probably knew she was. According to the lawsuit, there had never been any indication that Clancy was capable of harming her children. But you just said she was hearing voices to kill her children. What the heck? Make up your mind. She communicated her worsening symptoms to a provider. She told them medications are making her worse. Well, then you don't take them. You don't be alone with your children. Your husband doesn't let you be alone with the children. Here's what I think. I think this is defense oriented. I think the defense attorney has talked with her and her husband, and they have come with the idea that what they want to do is do the lawsuits against the providers to make it look like this is all ongoing and was an issue prior to the murders. Now, did she see people? Yes. But how they treated her and what the results were is a totally different thing. But you can always go back and say, they didn't listen to me. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. And I think it's a defense ploy. Because I do think she knew exactly what she was doing. I personally, her mother-in-law told the grand jury she loved everything about Lindsay. She was fun-loving, doting wife and mother who adored her children, was always smiling. How could that be true? Unless she's being manipulated. So she's going for an insanity plea. She's going for the postpartum depression thing, that and the psychosis that was caused by the postpartum depression and the medication that she was given. But there's something amiss about a lot of this stuff here, and I'm curious to see what's actually going to be brought out in court about her. And I've often seen that women who do exhibit Munchausen syndrome by proxy and Munchausen syndrome are very manipulative of the people around them. And a lot of times people around them do like them and think they're really wonderful because they present themselves that way. So, I question this lawsuit as not being a defense tactic. So we'll have to see what we learn a little bit later on. The Haitian rat. Nothing about this Mexican rat, Haitian rat. Yeah, person brings home their dog, and look, I got a Mexican dog or a Haitian dog. It turns out to be a big rat, which are very good pets, by the way. So, yeah. But anyway, I think I'm gonna stop there because I'm really hungry. I got to eat something. Whew, I don't know why I'm so hungry. But anyway, thank you for being here today. And say there's some things I'm going to follow up on as far as because I want to learn more about them. But we'll see what I can find out on some of these issues. But I'm glad you're here today. And I will be back on Sunday for the case show. It'll be 4 p.m. Eastern time again, because now we have a 6-hour difference between here and Hawaii and the East Coast. And I don't want to be getting up at 9. I mean, do the show at 9 in the morning, my time. So I'll stay with 10 in the morning. And for the UK, you haven't messed. It's still the same time frame. So it works out pretty well at the moment. So I will have two more shows to do here in Hawaii, 3 more shows to do in Hawaii, and then I'll be on a plane back to Maryland. And I'm not sure what I think about getting back to Maryland now. No, they do not. Hawaii does not do daylight savings. No, they do not. Yeah. So, but I'm going to miss Hawaii. I know I am, and so I'm kind of bummed I have to return to Maryland. But I do want to see my family. I haven't seen them for a while. I've talked to them, of course, but I haven't seen my granddaughter or my kids in 3 months. So, but I like being in Hawaii, so I wouldn't mind staying. So anyway, thank you for being here, everybody, and I will see some of you on Sunday. Oh, and I even completely forgot to say, hey, join, hit the subscribe button. If you're still here and you're, I forgot completely at the beginning of the show. Hit the subscribe button if you want to be in this room. Join Patreon, a link below, and you can be in the Patreon chat. There, I blew it completely. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. Bye-bye.